Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to this new edition of the Daily Analysis. Let's immediately focus on what is happening in short. Yesterday we had anticipated it. In short, we had said that it could be a situation. It was a situation to monitor for months. The Israeli, the one on the Israel-Iran escalation. The fact is, in short, that last night there were, further reprisals, and Iran is preparing its own. So we'll see, unfortunately, what the events and developments of this situation will be. A situation that could escalate with consequences that are still unknown. Even the statements that are coming in right now are anything but reassuring. And just imagine that all of this is happening on the eve of the meetings for the treaties that were supposed to start this Sunday. So really it's a situation that's very difficult to interpret, and as always we have to navigate by sight. As a consequence of all this, it caused, then we'll look at it in detail obviously, oil prices skyrocketed last night, exponentially reaching more or less the first resistance areas we had indicated yesterday, precisely in anticipation of this possible scenario that unfortunately is now materializing. This should put us on alert and make us understand that at this moment we have to be ready on any scenario. Really, we mustn't rule anything out, because unfortunately this is a world that has changed a bit. Excuse me for digressing from the technical aspects, but I am really very worried about this whole situation that is unfolding. As we were saying, let's now try to find some calm so we can go ahead and let's say give a report on what's happening from a technical point of view. Today, besides the daily levels, which have more or less all been breached, because during the night, for example, there was a movement on the Nasdaq of almost 500 points. So this meant that the daily levels were and still are violated, except that right now they're starting to recover them, moving from the minimum range up to the lower value area. I've also provided the weekly levels for everyone for free in the chat, so I hope that all of you can have, let's say, an extra point of reference. From an operational point of view, I repeat, the situation is quite clear. In short, yesterday we were basically in the upper part. In short, there was a bit of tone together with some positive data that arrived in the early afternoon, after which the evening seemed calm. Then last night, what happened, what we have just finished talking about. This is what started this movement that went to test. Yes, the first weekly support level, which is W zone, and it bounced off it twice. It found strength. In short, it is now working below WS0. We will see why. In short, this could probably be a new opportunity to enter short for perhaps more ambitious objectives if the escalation were to continue and the brakes are not pulled a bit. In short, on this situation, so we are definitely monitoring this situation. On the upside, we obviously have, let's zoom out the chart a bit now. We are back within the tree of the daily levels. We are currently trading above the lower value area, and there could also be a test, in fact, of the area of max winding mean, which is this one I'm pointing out here, which more or less corresponds to 21.720. It could come back to test this level, so let's keep an eye on this area, because with this double bottom, this is the area to watch. Again, there could be a test from below before heading back down. On the other hand, if there's a recovery after a breakout, prices could return to this range here, and we could interpret this basically as a reaction to an event, and then we'll wait to see how things develop. Let's obviously also take a look at ES, which is in a similar situation. In fact, it reached 5,930 last night, which was one of the levels we pointed out yesterday. And it was one of the possible scenarios that actually played out overnight. Same situation here. We are operating below WS0, so on the upside we are monitoring 5,990, 59, 5,990, 6,000. That seems to me to be the dividing line at the moment. So a recovery of this level could push prices back up. Of course, here I also expect sellers to come back in and maybe try to push the price down. We'll see, because honestly, we're flying blind here, guys. Unfortunately, events and situations can change from one moment to the next, precisely because there are so many scenarios and variables at play. Perfect. Now let's move on to the other two American futures. Starting with the Dow Jones, here it comes. Here too, the situation is similar. It went to break and, well, yesterday broke. Basically, it brushed against 43, didn't even test below it. In short, it stayed below for a while before taking off with this surge that brought prices to touch 42.2, and at the moment it's resting here on these lows. In short, it also showed a rebound here, and we could expect a recovery to 42.6, and here I expect the return of sellers in an aggressive manner, probably just like with the Nasdaq and with the so for the SP, a return into this range could bring prices back toward 42.5, but honestly, given what's happening, I don't know to what extent that could actually happen. We'll see. I hope so. Let's move on to the Russell. The situation here is a bit even more pronounced. In fact, it made quite a surge up to 2070, and at the moment it's recovered to 200. So it's already regaining a bit more in terms of relative strength. The recovery of 200, so breaking through 200, could easily bring prices back to retest these lows around the 225 area. Failing to break through 200, 205, so staying within the daily range could push prices downward. In any case, you've been provided with everything, including the weekly levels, so you can definitely load those up. I haven't included them here, but you can load them and have some extra reference points for sure. Let's move on to the DAX, which opened with a nice gap yesterday. Well, actually, last night it opened with a big gap, a big candlestick that wiped out 300, 400 points. Right now it's trying to rebound, but as you can see, we're still within the range of that opening candlestick from the regular trading hours for the German future. And we're recovering the low area from yesterday, well, from today. Actually, these are the levels to keep an eye on. Obviously, the main one is 2,123.30, basically these lows here. If these levels are recovered, it could probably lead the price to retest the lows that were recorded last night. All these lows, well, even with low volumes this morning, there's a bit more coming in, but last night at the open, and even yesterday, the volumes weren't, let's say, at average levels. Let's take a look at oil. Obviously, last night it made a huge jump going from 68 to 77, so that's an enormous move. Such a significant increase in oil prices can have a major impact on the global economy, affecting everything from transportation costs to the price of goods and services. Moves like this are closely watched by investors and analysts because they can signal changes in market trends or underlying economic conditions. What you see here is one of the tools that's part of this is the structure, which basically comes from the market structure. You can see here, for example, this is the weekly structure. Well, actually, the monthly structure, which adjusts and provides you with what could be the structure for the next month. This one is for June, and of course, it updates in real time, so you can also get it for daily and weekly timeframes as well. So from an operational point of view, the surge in oil prices following these tensions seem pretty clear to me, except that, as you can see, it has already pulled back quite a bit. It made a strong move, and now the pullback has been quite substantial, basically retracing almost everything. So we might see a test of this area here and maybe a new attempt to move higher, especially if this situation heats up even more, though I really hope things will cool down and that the price might rise for other reasons. So be extremely careful if you're trading oil always. Have your stops set in the system and be very careful, guys. Let's obviously take a look at gold as well, as you might expect. Here it is. Gold, of course, also had a strong upward surge, reaching to 467 overnight, a really significant jump. but now it's pulling back, pausing at this initial area that had previously halted the breakout from this range. So it's a nice retest from above around the 2430 level, and it could bounce back upward and definitely reach new highs. On the downside, we're keeping an eye on the 2430 level, which seems to be the key pivot point. It matches these highs and the lows recorded during the pullback. We still need to take a look at Bitcoin. Here it comes now. It also pulled back, dropping to 102, 102.3, and now it's recovering a bit. Currently, we're operating below S-Dawn, and there could potentially be a recovery up to this volume node around today's RD0 area, unless, of course, it goes on to retest the lows that were recorded overnight. Perfect. With that, we've reached the end of this week's daily analysis. Please exercise maximum caution. Don't remember that today is the contract rollover for ES, Dow Jones, and Russell. On Monday, it will be Nasdaq's turn. As always, I invite you to leave a like on the video and follow me on social media. We'll catch up later in the chat. Thank you all for your attention.